Hi, it's Rohit from Oxnard. Um Today I'm gonna tweak the sign up flow a little bit because I noticed that we have people who are signing up. Well, they're getting to stage one, but they're dropping off before stage two. Mm. Those stages being entering an email address on this website, and then you like these colors, and then clicking on the link inside the email we send them. So I don't know if they're not getting the email. Maybe it's going to spam. Maybe they lose interest quickly. I don't know. But I want to change this so that it's a single sign up flow. And also, I was thinking through this yesterday. If I do that, I get some other benefits, which maybe I'll talk about. Okay, so um, to give you some background so that you can follow along, what what happens when you click this blue button over here is that the name you choose, my new account name, and the email address you enter gets sent to this function over here called quick sign up. Okay, so the email address and the account name are put into a table in uh, in our database, and then a bunch of stuff is done which really doesn't need to be done if this is a person who's not planning on using the product. But anyway, we create the basic plugins for a website, for YouTube, and I think a link. Right, website, YouTube. You see this and link, and then we email them this login token. The login token will then be validated. It has to be stored somewhere, so it's stored in this table. Um, so that when they then come to the dashboard and they connect using their Facebook or Google account, this token is looked up and the account name returned. You see, that's the account, the publisher name. Uh, so for those of you who do this kind of thing, who develop software for a living, you probably guessed that I didn't plan it this way. It just this is what what it became after several iterations. Uh, so I have the opportunity now to change a few things because I can dump. I'm going to dump this roles table. I'm going to dump. Okay, I can't dump the publisher table, but I'm certainly not going to create the object at this point. Also, I'm not going to do this token stuff because I'm just going to keep them on the website, and I'll do a separate email validation flow where you know they get an email that says click to validate your email, and we try that a couple times, and if they don't, then we disable the account or something. um, but let them get going without having to leave the site, right? Well, there's going to be a sign up, sign in, and if this is I think a few people are getting thrown off when they come to the dashboard. This is what the dashboard looks like. Uh, Maybe they're getting thrown off when they see this login using Facebook or Google, and I could really, isn't there? Okay, what is here? What does this look like? So this is what they see. Please connect a Facebook or Google account to continue. We don't need your account information. We want to avoid usernames and passwords, which is true. We don't store account information. We don't even store which of Facebook or Google they used. We don't store the what do you call them, the account IDs provided by those. So what we do use is we use an AWS service called Cognito something, Cognito Identity. which takes uh, an identification um, string, identity, from Facebook, Google, or a few other services they work with, and they give you back what's called a cognito identity ID, and that's what we store. We store the identity ID, and from the identity ID, you can't go back, or at least if you can, I don't know how to, and it's not. Uh, but I realize that it's an unusual flow, and I realize this because people have pointed it out to me. And I'm pretty adamant about not storing passwords in my backend because I just don't want to. But I do want people to understand here, this is what we're going to try. So first, this sign up process on oxnut.com is going to go away, and it'll just be a link to the dashboard. So let's go to. Okay, so sign up is going to ask for an email address, and I'm going to tell the user to use Facebook or Google instead of choosing a password. So this might make more sense. Like email, people are used to email address password. So I'm going to say, I don't want to store your password. Facebook and Google are experts at this. So just email address and that account is your password. So maybe people will like that. And sign in will just be so let's think this through. Supposing I asked for their email address and the Facebook Google password. How am I going to look them up? So the actual identity is this cognito identity, which is going to be my database key. So if I make a table called identities having as its primary key the cognito identity ID. Oops. So I could just do an identity ID to email address map, but I have the opportunity now, if I use this table, I have the opportunity to support multiple accounts under a single login. Not that anyone's asking for it. I don't even have to build it in the front, but it follows naturally from. It could follow naturally. So I could either do one identity ID, one email address, or I could do a list of email addresses. And just thinking this through, the sign-in doesn't really require the email address, right? And maybe they've forgotten which address they use, and even if they have it, it doesn't matter. Supposing we don't ask for that, and they just connect with their Facebook, Google, I could retrieve the list of accounts attached to that identity, and ask them to pick the one they want to work with. And they could even switch in the middle of their session, because why not? And if they've forgotten which identity provider they used during sign up, then we would have a retrieve account flow where they provide the email address that they used, and they get sent a login link. To that email address. So they have to have access to that mailbox to get the link. And once they get the link, then they click on it and they connect a potentially different Facebook or Google account, which means that that email address, that email address could be attached to multiple IDs, right? And by the way, when you create an account, during sign up, you need a name for your account, which we call a pub name. And the pub name is what is unique in the system. So if I do that, then the email address doesn't even need to be unique in the system, right? You can type in whatever. So then you can create multiple accounts, all with a single communication address. So I'll say no uniqueness check. Very good. Then sign in. You don't need this. Show list of pub names attached to this identity. If there's only one, that's the one they're using. If there are multiple, then they can switch between them, which is kind of what we have now, except for the list part. And if the identity doesn't exist, then it just switches them over to sign up. Retrieve account. Email address is the right thing to ask for because people don't always remember their pub name, especially with capitalization and dashes and something 1, 2, 3. An email address is a good way to look up. So we could require that identity ID to email be one-to-one. If we get an identity ID, then this gives us a list of pub names, potentially a list, but I mean, potentially more than one. So the login link needs to be attached to the identity ID. I don't like the flows where the website tells you whether or not there's an account attached to an email address. Then you can just start typing in emails of your enemies and find out who has accounts where. I realize we're not doing any national security stuff here, but just as a practice, I don't like revealing that information to potentially malicious actors. If I query that on the email address, it will return a list of identities attached to that email address. But I just said I want this to be one-to-one. Hold on. Email to identity is one-to-one. Why? I guess I'll continue this video later.